Welcome back to We Connect. Thank you very much for staying with us on this program. Dr. Devanesan is my guest here on our show today. He's talking to me about what it was like to live and to work in the central parts of Australia, which were really very desolate and at the time absolutely in the wilderness. Now, we were talking here, Doctor, about traditional medicine, traditional healers, and you were talking about the way the spirit, they believed that it was the spirit that was actually the cause of, illness at the time. So I want you to explain that a little more.
Now, traditional healers, they're selected through a very special process and go through training, quite often having special dreams, and they actually develop a special power within themselves, a healing power called mapanba, which they use to heal a patient of their spiritual problem. They do not use herbal medicine. They're basically spiritual healers.
Okay.
And what they do is very dramatic. They may massage, sing, and sometimes they remove objects from the body of the sick person. But the sick person gets up and starts walking immediately.
You have seen this?
I have seen this. Very dramatic and quite extraordinary. And sometimes a person in hospital who we are treating in hospital is still pining away because he or she knows that the spiritual problem hasn't been dealt with. So one part of the program that I was involved with was bringing these Nankari to the hospital. The traditional healers. And they would treat a person in hospital and they would become better.
But Doctor, how was your scientific mind able to kind of amalgamate these two sort of systems that you're talking about here?
See, I was actually empathizing with the people.
Right.
And it was something that they believed in and it worked for them.
So you were okay with that?
So I was very happy because I could see the results of it, and I could see that without the traditional healers, they had a lot more problems and they took much longer to get better. Or they would not be fully healed till they got back to their community and met a traditional healer. So it was better to invite the healers into the system. And also I learned that they're only one part of the traditional healing system of Aboriginal people. They had two other really important components. The second was the Yawali ceremonies. Yawali, where they paint designs on a sick person. And I encourage that so much because when the patient is taken out into the open air and somebody is painting a design and singing songs with their family, there's so much TLC, tender loving care, and that itself is healing. And so I'm not sure about the power of the painting itself, but that was one part, painting the patient with these sacred designs and songs. And the final part, of course, was herbal medicine. And Aboriginal knowledge of plants is extremely extensive. So much so that Sir Joseph Banks, who was on that ship with Captain Cook, and that's the reason why the landing was called Botany Bay, he wrote in his diary, though their manner of life but one step removed from the brutes, I could clearly see that they had knowledge of plants and names for them. So the Aboriginal knowledge of plants is very extensive, and plants with medicinal value they knew.
Right, but that's not very different from what we do in India also, isn't it? There are traditional forms of medicine. So you, Dr. Devanesan, how would you, take the credit, if that's the right word, of actually curing people at that time? Or didn't it matter at all?
No, it mattered. It mattered. See, what happened is that by encouraging them to use their traditional medicine, all the different types of healing that I've described, it gave them a sense of pride that somebody recognizes what their knowledge that they've had for 40,000 years, which had not been acknowledged before.
Right.
So they felt good about it. And so we said, now, we are going to run a two-way medicine program. That is, you do your traditional medicine as well as Western medicine. We can do both together.
Right. And then you taught them the power of Western medicine and the whole health program through art. And I'm going to draw you back again to the way Aboriginal art has developed over the years. You used it very effectively there for the first time. And then it just grew and grew and grew. Not necessarily art, but art being used in the work that you were doing.
Yeah. The very first painting, a traditional painting that was used for health promotion, was drawn at Yuendamu. a community 170 odd miles west of Alice Springs. And when I asked the people, I said, give us something that describes health from your tradition. And this beautiful painting that still hangs in the health center has a husband and wife and their 2 children in a shelter. And they have a fireplace to give them warmth, and they have a carrier for meat and a carrier for vegetables, and a walk down to a water hole. So these are the basic elements of health: family life, shelter, food, water, and exercise.
Exercise?
Well, there's a walk down to
Oh,
water
yes,
hole.
of course. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. The start of gymming here.
That health actually belongs to you. You know, you are responsible for your own health primarily, not the doctors and the nurses. So you've got to do more for yourselves to promote your own health.
Right.
And that was beautifully
illustrated, really. So that concept really hasn't changed over the years, that each one of us is responsible really for how well we keep or how unwell we become. What about the fact that all of the Aboriginal art that we see has all these little dots and, you know, the way it is on this scarf of mine? I mean, what is the significance of that, since you were very much into this whole art scene?
Yeah. Now this, the neighboring community next to Yundum is called Papanya. And this is the home of this magnificent art movement that started in the 1970s. And it is now recognized worldwide. And in fact, Time magazine's art critic has called it the greatest art movement of the 20th century. And it's all with dots and circles. And the serendipitous founder was actually a school teacher, Jeffrey Barden, who landed up at Papanya School and found that these children drew little icons when he asked them to draw.
Little dots?
Yeah, little dots. And he thought maybe there's more to this. And he asked the gardener, a man called Billy Stockman, he said, do you think instead of all these koala bears and things that we have on the school wall, could we have a traditional painting on the school wall, a mural? And he was surprised that it took days for the men to decide. And they were meeting after meeting on the school lawn until they said, yes, we can do a painting. And they drew the honey ant dreaming. Now this is, the honey ant actually runs through Papanya. And that was the first ever drawing in a non-Aboriginal environment.
Yes. Really, yes.
Then he said, can you do these drawings on bits of paper or bits of board? And they were surprised that someone asked them for their paintings. And within a short period of time, thousands of paintings started appearing on chipboard.
Right.
And he started providing them with paints.
Right. And of course, that was really the start. You're talking about the 1970s. That was the start in the absolutely blooming Aboriginal art movement, which today I know that it can be as much as $1 million a piece of art from the Aboriginals in Australia. And you know what, at this point, reluctantly, I'm going to have to thank you, because I think that what you've given us is an amazing insight into a world that we don't know anything about. I really, Dr. Devanesan, I want to thank you so much for your time. I want to say that we very much appreciate what you've told us today, and I'm sure that you've taught me and a lot of people out there a lot, and I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor,
Jennifer.
very much indeed. Well, that's all we have time for, and reluctantly I'm going to go away this week, but it's been our pleasure that you could join us, and don't forget to join us every single weekend on We Connect. It's the show in which you'll always find people who are interesting, people who are fascinating, people like my guest here tonight. And so, until the next week, you take care. Bye for now.